What if I told you there are ancient crops you can plant this spring and still be harvesting in 2030, 2035, or even 2040? Crops that come back year after year, multiply themselves, require almost no care, and produce more food the longer they're in the ground. What if I told you that lazy gardening isn't about doing less work and getting less food? It's about doing less work and getting more food by choosing crops that take care of themselves. These crops exist. They're called perennials, and they're the ultimate lazy gardener goldmine. Our ancestors knew this secret. They planted vegetables, herbs, and fruits once and harvested for decades without replanting, without buying seeds every year, and without the endless cycle of tilling, planting, and starting over that exhausts modern gardeners. Today, I'm counting down 8 ancient crops that you plant once and eat for years. These aren't just any perennials. These are the absolute easiest, most productive, most foolproof crops that reward your laziness with abundance. Stick around because number 3 on this list produces more food per square foot than any annual vegetable, multiplies itself aggressively, and will feed you and your children for decades from one planting. And that bonus tip at the end? It's the ancient set and forget planting technique that makes these crops even lazier. Welcome to Evergreen Home Living, where we share the gardening wisdom that makes life easier, not harder. I'm here every week bringing you knowledge about growing food the lazy way, the smart way, by working with nature instead of fighting against it with constant labor. Let me tell you why this video is so important to me. 10 years ago, I was the world's most exhausted gardener. Every spring, I'd spend weeks preparing beds, planting seeds, transplanting seedlings. Every summer, I'd spend hours weeding, watering, and maintaining. Every fall, I'd harvest once and then do it all over again the next year. I was trapped on a gardening treadmill, constant work with no lasting progress. Then I visited a permaculture farm where the owner walked me through his food forest. "I planted most of this 15 years ago," he said casually, pulling a handful of berries from a bush. "Now I just walk through and harvest. The plants do everything themselves." I was stunned. That's when I realized I'd been taught gardening completely backwards. This video is about planting once and harvesting for years. Whether you're busy, lazy, tired of annual gardening, or just smart enough to want maximum food with minimum work, these 8 ancient crops are going to transform how you think about growing food. Before we dive into the countdown, hit that subscribe button right now and ring that notification bell. We share lazy gardening gold mines every single week, strategies that give you more food with less work. Your support helps us reach more people who want gardens that run themselves. Now let's jump in. Number 8, walking onions, the self-planting miracle. Starting at 8, we have walking onions, Egyptian onions, and these are truly the laziest crop you can grow because they literally plant themselves without any help from you. Why they're a lazy gold mine? Walking onions don't produce flowers. They produce clusters of small bulbs at the top of their stalks. These top bulbs get heavy, bend the stalk down to the ground, and plant themselves. The plant walks across your garden year after year, planting and multiplying without you doing anything. What you get forever. Fresh green onion stalks, like scallions, year-round, underground bulbs, like small onions, top bulbs, for eating or planting, continuous multiplication without replanting, harvest whenever you want, whatever amount you want. The lazy strategy, plant bulbs once in spring. That's it. You're done. They walk, multiply, and spread. Harvest anytime you need onions. You'll have onions for the rest of your life without ever planting again. How long they last? Forever. Literally. They're immortal once established. The ancient wisdom. Walking onions were passed down through families for generations because they represent the ultimate lazy food. Plant once, eat forever, zero work. Number 7, asparagus, the 25-year investment. At 7, we have asparagus. And yes, it requires patience initially, but once established, you get 20 to 30 years of spring harvests with almost zero work. Why it's a lazy gold mine? Asparagus is the classic perennial vegetable. Plant crowns once, wait 2 to 3 years for establishment, then harvest every spring for 25 to 30 plus years with minimal care. It's an investment that pays dividends for decades. What you get forever. Fresh asparagus spears every spring, harvest for 6 to 8 weeks. One of the earliest vegetables when nothing else is ready. High-value crop. $5 to $8 per pound at stores. Production increases as plants mature, 20 to 30 plus years from one planting. The lazy strategy, plant asparagus crowns properly in a permanent bed. Don't harvest years 1 to 2. Let plants establish. Starting year 3, harvest spears for 6 to 8 weeks every spring. That's your only work, an annual harvest. Feed with compost once a year, optional but extends life. Harvest for 25 to 30 years. How long it lasts? 25 to 30 years typically, sometimes 40 plus years with good care. The ancient wisdom. Asparagus beds were planted once per homestead and provided spring delicacy for multiple generations without replanting. Number 6. Rhubarb, the 50-year pie plant. Number 6 is rhubarb, and these massive perennial plants are truly plant once, harvest for life crops. Why it's a lazy gold mine. Rhubarb is nearly indestructible once established. It survives freezing winters, hot summers, drought, neglect, and keeps producing thick tart stalks year after year for 20 to 50 plus years. Some Victorian-era rhubarb plants are still producing after 100 plus years. What you get forever. Tart stalks for pies, jams, desserts, sauces. Harvest from spring through early summer. Beautiful large ornamental leaves, inedible but dramatic. Zero care required after year 1, 20 to 50 plus years from one planting. The lazy strategy. Plant rhubarb crowns in spring in a permanent spot. They get huge, 3 to 4 feet across. Water regularly the first year. After that, completely ignore except for harvesting stalks. Don't harvest year 1. Light harvest year 2. Full harvest year 3 onward for decades. How long it lasts? 20 to 50 plus years easily, possibly 100 plus years. The ancient wisdom. Every old homestead had rhubarb planted by someone's grandmother. It was still there decades later, still producing, outliving the people who planted it. Number 5. Horseradish, the indestructible spice. At 5, we have horseradish, and this is perhaps the most indestructible plant you can grow, bordering on immortal. Why it's a lazy gold mine. Horseradish spreads through underground roots and is virtually impossible to kill once planted. Harvest 90% of the roots and the remaining 10% regrow into a full crop. It survives drought, flood, freezing, neglect, and deliberate attempts to remove it. What you get forever. Fresh horseradish roots for making horseradish sauce, adding to roasts, condiments, continuous production year after year, spreads naturally, can become aggressive, zero care required, ever. Immortal once established, the lazy strategy. Plant one horseradish root piece in spring in a dedicated area. It will spread. Water occasionally the first few months. After that, ignore completely. Harvest roots each fall by digging up some of the patch. Any root fragments left regrow. You'll have horseradish for life, whether you want it or not. How long it lasts? Forever. Literally impossible to kill. More likely to outlive you than die. The ancient wisdom. Every farm had a horseradish patch planted once by someone decades ago. It was still spreading and producing long after everyone forgot who planted it. Number 4. Strawberries, the self-multiplying. Berry number 4 is strawberries, and while each plant only produces for 3 to 5 years, they send out runners that create new plants, making the patch essentially immortal and self-renewing. Why they're a lazy gold mine? Strawberries are technically perennial, but their real magic is self-propagation through runners. Mother plants send out long stems that root and become baby plants. One strawberry plant becomes 5, becomes 25, becomes hundreds over the years. The patch continuously renews itself. What you get forever. Fresh berries, spring through fall, ever-bearing varieties. One of the most expensive fruits at stores, $5 to $8 per pound. Continuous multiplication without replanting. Ground cover that suppresses weeds, self-renewing patch that never dies. The lazy strategy. Plant strawberries in a dedicated bed. Let them send out runners that root and become new plants. The patch fills in naturally. As old plants age out after 3 to 5 years, young runner plants replace them. Harvest berries continuously. The patch maintains itself forever. How long it lasts. Individual plants 3 to 5 years, but the patch is immortal through runner replacement. The ancient wisdom. Old homesteads had strawberry patches that were decades old, constantly renewing themselves through runners while providing berries every year. Number 3. Jerusalem artichokes, the aggressive producer. At 3, we have Jerusalem artichokes, sunchokes, and these are the crop I mentioned at the beginning. They produce more food per square foot than any annual vegetable and spread aggressively. Why they're a lazy gold mine. Jerusalem artichokes are native North American tubers that spread through underground roots. They're so productive and aggressive that the problem isn't getting them to grow, it's containing them. Every harvest leaves root fragments that regrow. They're perennial, spreading, indestructible, and incredibly productive. What you get forever: 5 to 10 pounds of tubers per plant per year. Tasty, nutritious tubers, nutty flavor, great roasted, mashed, or raw. Beautiful tall plants, 6 to 10 feet, with sunflower blooms. Improves soil, tolerates and rehabilitates poor soil. Spreads to create permanent food source. The lazy strategy: plant tubers in spring in a dedicated area where spreading is okay or contain with barriers. Water occasionally the first year. After that, ignore completely. Harvest tubers every fall. It's impossible to harvest them all. Tiny fragments regrow. You'll have continuous harvests forever with zero work. How long it lasts? Forever. Once established, you can't get rid of them even if you try. The ancient wisdom: Native Americans cultivated Jerusalem artichokes for centuries because they required zero work and produced permanent food supply. Pioneers adopted them for the same reason. The warning: only plant if you're okay with them spreading. They will take over if given the chance. But for lazy gardeners who want permanent food, that's actually perfect. Number 2, Lovage, the 30-year celery. At 2, we have Lovage, a massive perennial herb that tastes like intense celery and lives for 20 to 30 plus years. Why it's a lazy gold mine. Lovage is a plant once harvest for decades herb. It grows 6 to 8 feet tall every year from the same enormous root system. You can harvest leaves, stems, and seeds continuously for cooking, and it comes back year after year for decades. What you get forever. Fresh celery flavor year-round. Leaves, stems, seeds. One plant supplies an entire family. Beautiful tall architectural plant. Medicinal properties, digestive aid, 20 to 30 plus years from one planting. The lazy strategy: plant one Lovage plant in a permanent spot. It gets huge, needs space. Water the first year. After that, ignore completely except for harvesting. Cut leaves and stems as needed for cooking. Harvest seeds in fall for celery-like seasoning. The plant comes back bigger every year for 20 to 30 plus years. How long it lasts? 20 to 30 plus years easily. The ancient wisdom: every old farm had one Lovage plant planted by someone's grandmother. It was used daily in cooking and outlived multiple generations. Number 1, fig trees, the biblical lazy gold mine. And at number 1, we have fig trees, which can live and produce for 100 to 200 plus years and represent the ultimate ancient lazy gold mine. Why they're the lazy gold mine. Fig trees are the ultimate plant once harvest for life crop. They can live for over 100 years, produce 50 to 100 plus figs annually once mature, require minimal care, tolerate drought, and best of all, they're easily propagated from cuttings. One tree becomes unlimited trees. What you get forever: 50 to 100 plus fresh figs per year once mature, 2 to 3 years. Figs are expensive, $6 to $12 per pound at stores. Beautiful ornamental tree, drought tolerant once established, easy propagation from cuttings. One tree equals infinite trees, 100 to 200 plus years of production. The lazy strategy: plant one fig tree, water regularly for 2 to 3 years until established. Starting year 3, harvest figs annually with minimal care. The tree becomes more productive with age. Take cuttings from your tree, they root easily, and plant more free fig trees. Share cuttings with neighbors. One $30 investment becomes a lifetime supply plus gifts for everyone you know. How long it lasts? 100 to 200 plus years. Some Mediterranean fig trees are 500 plus years old and still producing. The ancient wisdom: figs are mentioned over 50 times in the Bible. The phrase, everyone under their own vine and fig tree, symbolized peace, prosperity, and permanence. Fig trees represented food security for life. Plant once, your children and grandchildren harvest. The cultural significance: fig trees are literally the symbol of permanent food in ancient cultures. They represent everything lazy gardening stands for. Plant once, Minimal care, maximum production, generational harvests. Bonus tip: the ancient mound and mulch technique. Here's the bonus: the ancient lazy planting technique that makes these crops even easier. Mound planting with heavy mulch. The technique: 1. Create raised mounds, 12 to 18 inches high, 3 to 4 feet wide. 2. Plant perennials on mounds, improves drainage. 3. Mulch heavily, 4 to 6 inches of wood chips, straw, or leaves. 4. Water well the first year. Establishment is crucial. 5. After year 1, do nothing except harvest and refresh mulch annually. Why it works: mounds improve drainage, prevents root rot. Heavy mulch suppresses weeds, no weeding needed. Mulch retains moisture, less watering needed. Mulch breaks down slowly, feeds soil naturally, creates self-maintaining system. The result? Perennial crops on mounds with heavy mulch become truly set and forget. Plant once, mulch annually, harvest forever. That's it. The ancient wisdom. Indigenous peoples and traditional farmers understood this. Raised beds with organic matter create ideal conditions for perennials while requiring minimal maintenance. Final thoughts: the lazy revolution. These 8 ancient crops represent a completely different philosophy of gardening. Instead of fighting against nature with constant replanting and maintenance, you work with nature by planting crops that want to come back, want to spread, and want to produce. Modern gardening teaches us that work equals success. The more hours you spend, the better gardener you are. But ancient gardening teaches the opposite. The smartest gardeners are the laziest because they choose crops that do the work themselves. Every perennial you plant is freedom from the annual cycle. Every plant once, eat for years crop is time you get back to do things you actually enjoy instead of replanting. Every harvest from a 10-year-old plant is proof you made the smart choice. The seed industry wants you replanting annually forever because that's how they make money. But these ancient crops break that cycle. They make you independent. And independence is the ultimate lazy gardener goldmine. If this video showed you a better way to garden, hit subscribe right now and ring that bell. We're Evergreen Home Living, and we share lazy goldmine strategies every week. Share this with anyone who's tired of high-maintenance gardening. Drop a comment telling me which crop you're planting this spring. And remember, the laziest gardeners are often the smartest gardeners. They just let plants do what plants naturally want to do: grow, produce, and come back year after year. Thanks for watching, and welcome to the lazy gardening revolution. I'll see you in the next one.